Welcome back, my friends, for another quick range report video. Today we were shooting a bunch of 308 Winchester as well as some 450 Bushmaster loads. I started with this 150 grain full metal jacket load. I had picked up a couple pounds of AR Plus from Shooter's World. It's just a ball powder, supposed to be good for the progressive press, so I just picked a random charge at 41 grains. And here we have a 10 shot, we'll call it a group, right? There's 5 of them touching all cute like this, but then there's these all around here. So if you take out all the human error, we're capable of this nice half-inch group up here. But if you throw me into the mix, our 10 shot group goes to 2.28 inches there. And then if we throw out the 10th one, we have a 9 shot group at 1.7 inches there. So not horrible for a random charge. Velocity 2727. That's actually kind of a light load. Most factory 150 grain full metal jackets I think are running 2800 is what they like to list on the box. So I'm at 2727. Extreme spread was 27, but the SD was only 8 feet per second. And that was just me pouring it real quick with the RCBS Uniflow with a random charge we picked. And we're getting 8 feet per second deviation there with a ball powder. So that's pretty impressive. I'm sure we could play with our seating depth or you know, a couple other things to tweak around and play with to tighten that up, as well as myself, you know, learning how to shoot, I'm sure would help a lot as well. The brass that we used was Lake City 2011 with some random primers I had from some pulled ammo, so I don't even think that the silver ones are the same. We have 2 up here that look like they have some kind of priming compound, so mixed primers. Crappy Lake City brass, and just a standard 150 grain full metal jacket. Overall length of 2.710, I do believe. Yeah, close enough. 2.71 is what we'll call it. Anyways, I just loaded this up to play with, to use for sighting in, blinking and all that fun stuff, and just getting warmed up. So those were the first 10 shots of the day, and they weren't horrible if you take the human out of the equation, right? Anyways, we'll play around with that and maybe dial it in a little tighter. We shall see. So moving right along, ignore these are 22 calibers, but you see these 10 shots here. This was with Johnny 1982's 30-150 flat nose with the gas check. His RCBS mold. He sent a couple of those over to the channel, so thanks again, Johnny. But we used 20 grains of 4227. Average velocity was 1791. Extreme spread of 25. Standard deviation of freaking 7 feet per second with a cast bullet there. And at 100 yards, we had a 1.84 group. Take out that flyer there, and we have a 1.45 inch 9 shot group with a cast load. That's pretty stinking awesome. Very impressive. And actually I shot this group first with the cast loads. This was 10 grains of 700X. We have a 3.26 inch group, which is, you know, kind of bad. Here we had a average velocity of 1464, extreme spread 56, and standard deviation of 18. You can see our horizontal spread isn't horrible, but the vertical spread, 3.5 inches there almost, because of our extreme spread. You know, you get different velocities, so you get different trajectories there. But honestly, at 100 yards for a free bullet you cast yourself using 10 grains of a very cheap pistol powder, I can't really complain a whole lot. Maybe I can try 9 grains, 9.5, maybe I'll try up to 11 or 12 grains. But I am impressed with this 20 grains of 4227. That's pretty impressive, to me at least, for a cast bullet with a 10 shot group. And actually, that 10-shot group with the cast bullet is 1.8 inches at 100 yards, and these full metal jackets were freaking 2.28 inches at 100 yards. So, you know, there's a better group there with a cast bullet that you can make on your own. Anyways, thanks again to Johnny1982 for sending those over to the channel. I still have some of those to play with, so we're going to keep dialing those in, and they're a lot of fun. So thanks again. Okay, so this last target is a total mess, but we weren't actually looking for accuracy or anything like that. I was just seeing if they were flying straight through the paper. This is the Lee 458-340, size to 452, using the CCI 450 Magnum rifle primer. And yeah, this was just a function and a quick chronograph test to see where we were at for some unknown data. These bullets weighed about 350 grains, I believe, so we used Gordon reloading tool to get some starting points and all that. But anyways, I started at 30 grains, and I was really close to the chronograph, so I don't trust any of this H110 data. And first shot, 1755. Second shot, you go up a grain to 31 grains, and it drops down to 1682. And then you go up a grain again to 32 grains, and you hit 1841. After I was done with the H110, I moved the chronograph back, and it seemed a little more consistent, but I don't know if that's just H110 with this bullet. Anyways, at 32 grains, I saw pressure signs. There was a nice stamp into the case head from the ejector on the bolt, so I stopped testing there. I was going to go to 33 and 34 grains, but I have to pull those, unfortunately, because I don't want to blow my gun up, and we have other powders we can test, right? Okay, moving on. Actually, let's look at the brass. This is our bullet here, the 350 grain cast bullet. Freaking huge mongoose. Anyways, there's our 33 grain load that I did not shoot, but if I can get this one out, we'll take a look at the little swipe I saw on the case head. So we got this nasty claw mark here and some of this, and we can figure out where the heck it went. It's hard to show you on the camera. This nice little mark up here, I've never seen on my 450 Bushmaster yet, so this is obviously a sign of pressure, and I said abort. I'm not going to add another grain or two to that. So H110 is not a good match for this projectile. You could see the velocities were all over the place, and I never got bolt lock back either, or had it function and even take the next one off the magazine. It always kind of came halfway back and just sort of stopped. But we could be figuring out whether or not my gun has an issue with the gas block and the gas system alignment and all that fun stuff, and see if it's even drilled out to the right spec or aligned properly. But we're going to do a couple more tests to see if it's a different powder I'm using with my mid-length gas system and rifle buffer system with my A2 stock. Maybe if I switched lowers with my carbine buffer, we might get a different function. But anyways, moving on to accurate 1680. You see we got to fire all of these, and no pressure signs. We had some slight flattening of the primer, but we actually had function here. And I wouldn't call this a group at all. We were just at 50 yards, and I'm aiming here just to see if they're not keyholing and all that. But we can see at 34 grains, 1695, 35 grains, 1644, 36, jumps back up 1729, 37 grains, jumps up to 1787, and then finally at 38 grains, we hit 1740 feet per second, which is lower than 37 grains. Odd. But we finally achieved lockback, and according to my research, about 38.5 to 39 grains was actually going to be our maximum, so I can still work up a little bit. And hopefully I'll find some accuracy between here and here and have some good function with the gun as well. So there is some hope to be found with the 1680. And again on the brass, no signs of pressure from this row here. Next up on the list for the 458 340 was 4227. That was the first powder that I tried with the 250 grain bullets from Hornady, and it was horrible. And as you can see, I only have 3 freaking bullets here on the paper for 4227. I did get all 5 chronograph readings, but I don't know where 2 of these landed. Maybe they're like right here, but this is horrible at 50 yards, regardless of jumping 5 grains in powder. Unfortunately, we didn't get any function and there was 0 accuracy to be found. Stop, test, abort, 4227 off the table for this bullet. And no weird bolt swipes or pressure marks. Primers are still pretty rounded, but no more 4227 with this bullet. And finally, we tested some Shooter's World Heavy Pistol. I started at 20 grains, and this is a very light load. Recoil was like, you know, shooting that 308 load I was talking about with the cast bullet, so no recoil, but obviously it didn't function at all starting at 20 grains. However, we saw a steady increase with our velocity as we increased our powder charge. So I'm going to go ahead and test from 24 grains all the way up to like 28 or 30, and we're going to see if we gain any function there, because obviously I wouldn't call this a group again, but if it's closer than that 4227 group next door, there's some hope to be, you know, maybe at the end of the tunnel with one of these powders here. So we're going to test a higher charge there with the heavy pistol and hope we can get up to maybe 1800 with some function. Heck yeah. Well, anyways, I would call that a somewhat successful range day. We have a somewhat cheap blinking option here that I can load up on the progressive press for the 308. That's awesome. I have a couple powders we can continue working with this. That's pretty awesome and cool because big thumpers are pretty fun and, you know, America. And also, once again, thanks to Johnny 1982 for the RCBS 3150 flat noses. These are stinking awesome, and I think we're going to keep playing with those as well. So thanks again. Anyways, guys, if you enjoy this content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and like the video if you haven't already. You can also support the channel over on patreon.com/dummyround. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We will see you in the next video. Have a good one.